Good evening. Just a few days to go now to Christmas. Kids are tucked up, tight in bed, really excited. And I'd like to share with you a book I wrote a while ago, now, about 3 or 4 years ago, called The Christmas Expectations, from a series of books I wrote about a character called, as I said, Christmas Expectations. Hope you like it. Was at you and Lydia and Heidi's house. He was sitting in their front room next to Heidi, who was busy writing a letter. But he wasn't paying attention to her. Instead, he was looking around. The room was different from the way he remembered it. There was a large pointy tree in the corner, just by the front window. It was alive with pretty coloured lights which twinkled and flashed. Every branch was decorated with sparkly balls and figures, some of which he recognised. He saw a snowman, a reindeer, and he couldn't just make out an angel slightly obscured by the tree's green spindling needles. At its very top, close to the ceiling, was a large silver star. Thought that it was a beautiful star. Its tips stretched out wide and its centre caught the light of the fire, which was crackling and popping in the fireplace. The more looked around, the more there was to see. Paper chains and dangly ornaments hung from the ceiling, holly laden with red berries, entwined with mistletoe stretched out across the mantelpiece. Smiled and thought to himself that it was a really lovely place to be. He turned to Heidi. "Heidi, I especially like your house today." He pulled at her arm and pointed at the tree. But why have you put a tree in your house?" Heidi continued writing a letter, and for a while thought that she hadn't heard him. And then, without looking up, she said, because it's nearly Christmas." She said the word Christmas loudly, and there was an unmistakable sense of excitement in her voice as she said it. Now, had never had a Christmas before, well, not one that he could remember, but he knew that for many it was a special time of the year. He was keen to find out more. "Heidi, what's Christmas?" Well, she thought for a bit. Heidi stopped what she was doing and turned to look at him. Her little face beamed as she pondered the question. "What's Christmas? Christmas is only the most exciting time of the year. Father Christmas comes, it snows, and everything is pretty, and everyone is happy. And you get lots and lots of presents. Look, I'm writing a list." She pushed the piece of paper in front of her toward him, and he began to read it. It read, "Dear Father Christmas, I hope you are okay. I'm very good this year, and here are the things I would like for Christmas. 1. A pink bike with a basket on the front. 2. A big doll's house for my little people. 3. A little pony. 4. A sparkly bell dress. And 5. Some brown teddies. 6. Some sparkly silver shoes. 7. A Samsung tablet like Ewan's. 8. Oh, she thought for a bit. 8. Suddenly he felt a prod in his side. Do you think that's enough?" Thought for a moment. Snow, put snow." He tapped his finger at the empty space on Heidi's list. Heidi laughed. She said, "You are silly. You can't put snow on the list. You can't just ask for snow. It either will snow or it won't snow." And she scratched her head as if she was thinking some more about her answer. She continued, "I know I said it snows at Christmas, but that's usually only on films and on Christmas cards. I mean, I wish it would, that would be wonderful, but it never does. And besides, it's not something that Father Christmas brings, so I'm afraid I can't put snow on my list." Then, before could comment any further, she added, "A pretty necklace. That's it, a pretty necklace." And she wrote "pretty necklace" in the empty space on the list, wrote her name on the bottom of the letter, and then put it in an envelope. She prodded her again. Have you written a list?" Shook his head. He hadn't, and even though Heidi then told him all the reasons he should, he couldn't think of a single thing that he would put on it. All that afternoon, after he'd helped Heidi post a letter, Heidi told about Christmas. She told him all about the Christmases she had had and what this Christmas would be like. And all the time noticed how happy and excited she was. Soon it was time for to go home. He had just gathered up his things and had said his goodbyes when Heidi came rushing up to him, pulling her mum alongside her. She said, "Will you come over to our house on Christmas Day? Please, will you, knelt down in front of her, took her little hands in his. "I would be honoured," he said. "If it's okay with your mum." He looked up at Sarah, Heidi's mum, who smiled at him and nodded gently. Heidi looked at him. "Pinky promised." She held out her little finger, and Earl curled his little finger round hers and smiled. "Pinky promise," he said. "See you Christmas Day then," he added. The following week, Earl saw Christmas everywhere. He saw it in the faces of the people he met, he heard it in the shops that he went to, and the carol singers that came to his door. He felt it in the chill in the air as the icy wind nipped at his nose and at his fingertips, and he saw it as the Christmas cards kept on coming through his letterbox. When Christmas Eve arrived, it was unmistakable. The children especially were very, very excited, and Auntie Mary had told him they were overexcited, but he didn't really know what that meant. That Christmas Eve, when the stars lit up the evening sky, Holly, Joe, Layla, Lily, Erin, Dylan, James, Izzy, Amber, Ewan, Jimmy, Lydia, Heidi and Bo came over to Er's house. They roasted chestnuts on the open fire and they sang carols around the Christmas tree. And when it was late, Auntie Mary reminded them all they needed to be asleep, otherwise Father Christmas would never come. And it was not long after that that children's mum and dads were ringing the doorbell and taking them home to their beds. The following morning, was woken up by a loud knock on his bedroom door. Before he had a chance to answer, Auntie Mary came in with baby Louie and Pippa. Merry Christmas, sir. Come on, you lazy bones. We've been waiting downstairs for you for ages." Auntie Mary shook his duvet and Pippa bounded onto his bed and started licking his face, as if to save him from washing it later. Okay, Pippa, I'm awake," said, trying to push her big furry body off his chest. He looked at Auntie Mary, who was now peering down at him, her rosy cheeks and beaming smile now the only thing he could see. "Merry Christmas, Auntie Mary," he said, smiling back at her. "I'll be down in a bit." As they all left his room, Irv followed them almost immediately. He really didn't want to miss any part of this very special day. He was no sooner down the stairs when Auntie Mary thrust a present into his hands. He saw baby Louis surrounded by presents and torn wrapping paper under the Christmas tree. And then something caught his eye. At first, he wasn't sure. The window through which he was looking was reflecting the lights of the Christmas tree, making it almost difficult to look through. But as he looked, he saw the trees and the cars and the garden. They were completely white, covered in a blanket of snow. He remembered Heidi, and he remembered how she wanted it to snow on Christmas Day, but thought that it never would. He thought how excited she would be now that it was. He then remembered his promise to her. "Aunt," he said, as he put his present on the dining table and made his way to the front door, "I have to go and see Heidi. I'll be back in a bit." Without waiting for an answer, left the house and crunched his way in the snow all the way to Heidi's house. Even before had walked through her front door, he knew that Heidi wasn't happy. She had a copy of her letter to Father Christmas in her hand and was stomping around the living room, around the presents she had received, which were now unwrapped and piled in the centre of the room. "Happy Christmas, Heidi," said, as he brushed the snow off his hat and coat. "What's wrong, Heidi?" Heidi looked up at him and pointed to the letter. "Look, my list, look. You saw me write it. He's got it all wrong, all wrong." She folded her little arms across her chest, buried her little chin into her neck, stamped her foot into the carpet and sobbed. "He bought me a purple bike and I asked for a pink one." Looked at the purple bike. He liked it. She continued. "He bought me a small doll's house and I asked for a big one." Looked at the doll's house. It looked handmade, and although not big, it certainly wasn't small. Heidi pushed the letter up in the air so could take a better look, and pointed to the bit where she had asked for a large doll's house. She was crying now, and tears were rolling down her cheeks. She crossed her arms again. "It's ruined her. Christmas, it's all ruined." Picked Heidi up and hugged her, spun her around and pointed out the window. "But look, Heidi, look, it's snowing." Heidi looked, and in that moment saw the little girl in his arms change from a little girl so sad and disappointed to a little girl whose eyes grew wide, whose face was filled by this biggest smile, and who giggled and laughed as if the first few minutes before had never happened at all. Wow, look how beautiful and magical everything is. Come on, let's go out and play. Let's have a snowball fight. Let's build a snowman. Come on, shall we? Looked at Sarah, who already had Heidi's hat and coat, gloves and scarf in her hand. "Of course," he said, "but you will need to dress up warm." As they left the house, they were greeted by a flurry of snowballs, one of which knocked Er's hat clean off his head. Lucky for him, the next one missed as a result of him bending down to pick it up. It also gave the opportunity to identify his attackers. It was Roy, Karen, Charlotte and Lucy, the next door neighbours. They were laughing and frantically trying to gather enough snow to make another snowball. However, had the advantage, and he scooped up a pile of snow and hurled it toward them in a style typical of a discus thrower. It was a perfect shot and caught Roy in the back of his head. Just then, Heidi's friends came running down the lane toward them with their puffy coats and the woolen hats you could be excused from thinking they all just wanted a big cuddle. But in every clenched wooden fist was a snowball, and when caught a glimpse of their faces, it was clear they meant business. As they reached him, they all cried, "Merry Christmas, before throwing a volley of snowballs at him, giggling and laughing at the same time. There were so many of them, and the children were so close to him, that could do little more than just stand there and get covered from head to foot in snow. And when they eventually finished throwing their snowballs, suggested it might be a good time to make a snowman instead. And that's exactly what they did. That Christmas Day afternoon, Heidi and her friends played in the snow until the sun went down. And when they were all tired and had time to notice, the children gazed around them at the glistening snow, at the Christmas tree lights that decorated the street, and the snowman they had built. And they realised that they were there in a place they had only ever seen on Christmas cards or in Christmas movies. Heidi turned to grabbed his hand and pulled him down toward her. This is the best Christmas ever," she whispered, and gave him a kiss on the cheek. Gave her a hug. "I'm glad," he whispered back. Soon after, walked a very sleepy Heidi home. He reflected on the day, thinking how disappointed Heidi had been for not getting all the things she had written in her letter to Father Christmas, but how happy and surprised she was when it snowed on Christmas Day, something she never expected at all. Before going to sleep that night, wrote in his book, "The more you expect, the more you will be disappointed. The less you expect, the more you will be surprised." The end. Have a very Merry Christmas, everybody, from all us Giffords.